July 21st, 1969. I'm 5 years old. Along with millions of viewers around the world, I watched the Apollo astronauts explore the moon on a grainy black and white television. The ghostly image makes the event seem even more wondrous than it is, and I go to bed that night dreaming of them. Brave, handsome, and lean, the astronaut emerges as America's newest hero. He rejuvenates the myth of the frontier, and after a decade of war, riots, and assassinations, recaptures our country's lost innocence. More often than not, he was raised in a small town or a farm in the Midwest, just like me. Growing up in Iowa, I dream of being an astronaut. Our empty corn crib becomes my spaceship, with a control panel that my dad builds from discarded switches and dials. Our farm becomes my orbit, and wearing the spacesuit my mom bought me for Halloween, I circle it over and over again. During the winter months, I make model rockets in our basement. Each of these rockets requires painstaking care, and I take tremendous pride in the fact that I build them all alone. When the weather turns warm, I shoot them off. Some go over 1,000 feet in the air. Some I never find. Between 1960 and 1973, space dreams run wild. President Kennedy challenges NASA to put a man on the moon by the end of the decade. America's first astronauts, the Mercury 7, reached low Earth orbit. Astronauts performed spacewalks. Space visionaries hope to colonize the moon and send humans to Mars by 1980. Apollo missions travel back and forth to the moon beginning in 1969. One mission, Apollo 13, is crippled when an oxygen tank explodes on the way to the moon. But all three astronauts return safely to Earth. The engineer emerges as the hero. As I grow into a teenager, two big dreams are to become an astronaut and a professional baseball player. I'm obsessed with space and getting my curveball over the plate. I cannot make up my mind about which path to choose, especially since I know I'll be brilliant at both. Trying to decide is a daily struggle. After the success of several lunar missions, the next step is to explore the long-term effects of living in space on humans. An orbiting space station is required. Built from a leftover Saturn V rocket, Skylab goes into orbit for precisely this purpose. Chronic problems begin to plague NASA. One of Skylab's solar panels doesn't open after launch. Skylab crews squabble with mission control during their 2-month stays in orbit. An orbiting space station doesn't seem to be an adequate replacement for canceled lunar missions. By the early 1980s, space dreams seem to have run their course. In 1981, the first space shuttle is launched, and that fuels a temporary spark of public interest. The shuttle program lasts 30 years, but unlike the Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo missions, it never captures the American imagination. It's 1982, and I've decided to study aerospace engineering at Iowa State. Engineers, I decide, can be heroes too, even if they wear pocket protectors instead of spacesuits. I've also given up the baseball player idea, but I haven't abandoned dreams of fame altogether. Between calculations, I play in a rock band. By the time I'm in college, space shuttle flights with their same low Earth orbit destination are becoming routine, even boring to the public. In 1981, network TV preempted all broadcasts for coverage of the first space shuttle launch. Within a year, shuttle flights are old news. Boredom turns to tragedy when Challenger explodes 73 seconds into launch on January 28, 1986. NASA authorizes the launch on the coldest launch day ever. Seals in the solid rocket boosters become brittle and fail. This is a devastating blow for the space program, and I'm 4 months away from graduating. While at Iowa State, all I dreamed of doing was working in space. Now that I'm about to graduate, the space program seems to be shutting down. I'm lucky enough to get one job interview, to work at General Dynamics on the Shuttle Centaur program. By some miracle, I land the job and head out to San Diego. On my second day of work, NASA cancels the project. All the engineers hired to work on this program are told we have 1 year of guaranteed employment and that we better start looking for another job. I begin to worry about how I'm going to eat from a year from now. I get a new job in Los Angeles at Rockwell International on the space shuttle program, and ironically, it turns out to be my dream job. There's a sense of purpose at Rockwell, of people working together to get the shuttle flying again. My challenge is learning the shuttle's guidance and control system. It's a wee bit complicated. In 1988, Rockwell wins the contract to build the X-30 National Aerospace plane. Along with a select group of colleagues, I start work in a classified building with keypad locks, isolated from everyone else at Rockwell. This project turns me on to advanced research concepts, and I decide to pursue graduate school. During graduate school, I work on futuristic missions that use new propulsion technology. Some of these missions involve trajectory problems that have never been solved. They include unmanned satellites to asteroids and comets. I continue this work as a new professor at MU. Nearly 20 years later, I still work on futuristic missions using electric propulsion for NASA and the rocket company Aerojet. There is talk of human missions to Mars using electric propulsion in 2030. And yet, with the retirement of the shuttle in 2011, NASA currently has no way to get its own astronauts into space. The future of the space program is uncertain. Compared to 40 years ago, space dreams no longer capture the public imagination, but they continue to capture my imagination. Many of the young people I work with today want to work in the space business, including one 10-year-old named Silas West Kluever. Perhaps space dreams will come again and run wild. Thank you.